Hello, dear radio listeners and viewers joining us via the live stream or replay. I'm Shantae, also known as Life Coach 614 here on social media, and I am thrilled to have each and every one of you here today as we embark on a new journey of self-care and well-being together. Before we dive into this main topic, let's set a few ground rules to ensure a positive experience for everyone. In order for us to maintain a harmonious atmosphere, our dedicated admins and moderators are here to assist in the chat. This space is all about sharing, caring, and embracing each other's unique self-care journeys. Your active participation and engagement are key to cultivating the positive energy we value so much. Now, we do kindly ask that you be mindful of your contributions, as all donations and subscriptions during the live stream directly support the Self-Care Club LLC, creating a ripple effect of positivity within the community, enabling us to spread joy on purpose. If anyone is seeking any additional information, or if you are ready to book your one-on-one life coaching session with me, I encourage you to visit selfcareclub.org for more details. Now, let's pledge to make this community a beacon of positivity and support for everyone. If you are ready to embark on a new self-care adventure, please flood the chat with some green hearts to let me know that you are awake and that you are ready today. Thank you, Miss Rose. What up, Lady Blue? I see you. Thank you, thank you. All right, so our topic for today is healing from within. And we're going to talk about the role of forgiveness in self-care. Now, of course, our theme all month long is one love. One love. So when we think of one love, we're thinking of self-love. We're thinking of the love that we give to others, the love that we share. The love and the compassion that we show towards even a complete stranger, right? So today we're going to talk about healing from within, the love from within, loving on ourselves, forgiving ourselves. So when we think about forgiveness, forgiveness is a powerful tool in the journey towards self-care and healing. Forgiveness involves letting go of resentment, anger, and the desire for retribution towards oneself or others. And so I thought it would be important for us to talk about how forgiveness plays such a crucial role in our self-care. Thank you so much, Lady T. I appreciate the gifts. So first and foremost, when I think of forgiveness, I think of emotional liberation. Emotional liberation. So forgiveness frees us from heavy burden. Forgiveness helps us to free ourselves from forgiveness helps us to free ourselves from the heavy burden of the negative emotions, right? Instead of us, holding on to this past hurt, right? This trauma, this pain that we felt previously. By forgiving someone, we can start to release these toxic emotions. Rich Rising's lethal. Welcome in, bro. We can start to free ourselves from these toxic emotions and start to really truly experience like this emotional freedom, right? Because when we are holding on to past hurts, when we are holding on to grudges like this, it causes chronic stress. It has us to then begin to suffer from anxiety and depression, right? So if we begin to just kind of open up and say, we're going to let some of these things go. You know how we're always talking about letting go of the things that no longer serve us, right? That burden that we're carrying, it's not serving us anymore, guys. Like we need to just let it go. We need to learn how to forgive ourselves because it's something that's very essential to our very well-being. And then in addition to having this emotional liberation, we have an improved mental health. right? So when we work on forgiving ourselves or forgiving others, that helps us to improve our mental health. And so studies have shown that forgiveness can lead to reduced symptoms of depression and anxiety. It promotes a more positive outlook on life, and it enhances one's ability to cope with stress. Forgiving oneself for making past mistakes is particularly important when it comes to our mental health, because that is how we begin to foster self-compassion and self-acceptance. So then there are also some physical health benefits of forgiveness. Rich Risings, Cosmic Poet, welcome in, Neen. So when we think of physical health benefits, the mind-body connection is very powerful. Chronic stress and negative emotions can begin to manifest as physical ailments. Manifest into physical ailments such as high blood pressure, a weakened immune system. It can cause heart disease. And so it's been, studies have shown that forgiveness has been linked to lowering your blood pressure. It has helped people who have sleep disorders or sleep issues because it improves the quality of your sleep, and it just overall improves your physical health. So that's another reason to forgive, right? We're always looking for reasons to let things go. Another reason that I have for you is that it enhances your relationships. Forgiveness can improve relationships with others by helping you to begin to foster empathy, understanding, and trust. A lot of us running around with trust issues for no reason, right? If we just learn to let some of these things go, we can then open the door and be more open and willing to what's new, what's, now available to us, right? It'll help us to come back into the present instead of being so stuck and focused on the past. So then, like I said, it encourages us to open the lines of communication. It helps us when it comes to navigating and getting through conflict with others. And let's see, it helps us to be more supportive, right? It creates a more nurturing, inviting environment for the people that we're around, as well as, making that environment more loving. Of course, if we're going to talk about one love, there's an energy exchange there. And so when we begin to forgive ourselves and begin to forgive others, it allows us to have a more positive energy exchange. Rich Risings, B60 Mama, how are you today? Welcome in, Sherry. So again, we can, just by learning to forgive ourselves from the mistakes that we've made, or to begin to forgive others and release them for the mistakes that they've made, understanding that we're all human, right? So we can build our relationships with other people going forward. Now, just because we forgive a person doesn't mean we give them access back to us. Rich Risings, Tequila Sunrise. And Perk, welcome in, sis. So it doesn't mean that we have to let them back in, right? Just because I forgive you doesn't mean that I give you access to me again. Okay, I forgive you because I see that you're human, right, Glow? I see that you're human, and so I recognize that you're a human being and that human beings make mistakes. However, some mistakes, even though I forgive you, some mistakes are simply the last straw, I would say, where you don't get access back to me anymore. So like, I forgive you, I release you, what you did or whatever doesn't live rent free with me anymore, but I'm not going to give you access back to me because now, you met me at a point where I lacked boundaries, and now I've got boundaries, and you happen to be one of them, but I forgive you, So just understand that forgiveness and access do not have to run hand in hand. You don't, to forgive a person, you don't have to give them access to you. And I think that's where a lot of us get hung up on forgiving people for the mistakes that they make. And so another, benefit to this is personal growth. Forgiveness is an act of personal growth and maturity. It requires introspection, empathy, and the willingness to move past one's ego. Yeah, I forgive you, but access denied, right, Rose? So, by practicing forgiveness, individuals can start to develop a greater emotional intelligence and resilience. And of course, when we get into that, Rich Rising scale, that begins to enhance the quality of our overall life. And then lastly, in the roles that forgiveness plays for us, the last tip that I have in here is spiritual well-being, right? We're on this journey to heal. We're trying to reconnect. We're trying to tap back in with the universe, be more spiritual in these things, right? So when we think of our spiritual well-being, for many, forgiveness is deeply tied and connected to a spiritual belief or practice, right? It can bring a sense of peace and fulfillment to your life, aligning one's actions with one's personal or religious values. This spiritual harmony is an integral part of holistic self-care. Because remember, we're not just healing one part. We're not just working on the physical. We're not just working on the mental. We're tapping into our creative side. We're tapping into our spiritual side, right? So forgiveness gives us the opportunity to kind of tie all of this together. So if we're looking into some strategies for practicing forgiveness, I think that we would start with the self-forgiveness, right? Because if we're holding on to things that we done, thank you so much, Eagles Vision, for the follow. If we are going to do this journey together, right? And like I said, all month long, we're talking about one love. Well, we also have to focus on self. It's our self-care, so we've got to begin with us. Before we can move out here into the world and start forgiving everyone else, hey girl, hey. Before we can move out here and start forgiving everyone else, we have to forgive ourselves, right? Self-forgiveness. So first and foremost, we've got self-forgiveness. So when we think about self-forgiveness, thank you, sis. First and foremost, you guys, we've got to acknowledge the hurt. Acknowledge the hurt. We've got to recognize and accept the feelings of guilt and regret, right? The first step in any of the step programs is to acknowledge that there's a problem. And so we have to start acknowledging the hurt that we feel. We need to feel the feelings. And in order for us to, get through it, we've got to be able to address it. So we have to first and foremost, like I said, acknowledge it. All right, we've got to recognize that it's there. Good morning, beautiful. Welcome in. Then we've got to understand the impact. We've got to understand the impact of this hurt. So now that we recognize, hey, this is here, this happened, this is a problem. Now that we're accepting these feelings of guilt or regret, we're going to understand what impact they play on us, what role it plays on our lives. And so we have to begin to reflect how this mistake has affected us, and how it's also affecting others, right? Because anytime that we have some sort of hurt or pain, how it's more than just affecting us as individuals. It's also affecting the other people around us, because maybe we don't fool with this person, or maybe now because this has happened at this location, we don't show up for certain family functions anymore, or we're no longer engaging with a group of friends because one person did something to us, right? So we have to understand the impact of this. How is it affecting me? How is it affecting those around me? And then we've got to move towards learning from this experience. Okay? Learning from the experience. Identify the lessons learned and how to avoid similar mistakes in the future. So we're going to feel it. We're going to break it down, and we're going to understand, what role it's playing in our life. We're then going to learn from it. And then my favorite part, we're going to let that shit go. All right, let it go. Release the self-blame and treat yourself with kindness and compassion. So I know what it is that is bothering me and what's holding me back. I understand that it's keeping me not just from this person who hurt me, but my whole group of people, right? I understand that one person offended me, but since I stopped going around to the family functions or my friend social events because of that person, now I'm missing out on the relationship with everybody else, right, Miss E? Right, Bubblegum? So now I've got to get to the point where I'm like, you know what? He said what he said. I felt how I felt. It is what it is. Now I'm going to move on. I'm going to let it go. So we're gonna jump right to that let it go phase, right? I'm going to release any self-blame. You know what? They human. She human. You know what I'm saying? Her feelings are valid. Her, what she said to offend me, like, listen, her feelings are valid. I get it. It's cool. Right? It is what it is at this point. There's no turning back. Right? So now I can just get to the point where I get to just let it go. And I get to show myself some kindness. And I get to show myself some grace. Because I might have popped off when she said what she said, right? So now I was hurt because what she said hurt me. So I turned into a hurt person who hurt somebody because I clapped back. Right? So now I got to just forgive myself. Before I could even really truly forgive her, listen, I just got to forgive myself. I'm human, she human, we all human. That means we all make mistakes. And then, so we've started working on self-forgiveness. Now we got to get these people out our head. These people who are living rent-free, right? We got to start to let them go. And so we've got to forgive others. And in order to forgive others, we've got to first start with empathy. We have to empathize with others. Try to understand their perspectives and their motives. So anytime you have someone who has wronged you, you've got to try to see it from their perspective, right? You got to try to step in their shoes and say, okay, when she said that to me, or when she said that about me, what was she going through? What was I doing at that moment to make her say such hurtful things? Or where was I in this point of my life when he did what he did or when she did what she did, right? So I've got to first and foremost try to understand their perspectives. What might have been happening in this person's life to make them, come for me in that capacity? So you just want to try your best to understand their perspective and the motives of the person who wronged you. Some people will wrong you because they're jealous of you or they envy you, right? And so sometimes when you spend a little bit of time reflecting on that, you're able to see, well, you know what they said is really irrelevant. Sometimes just understanding, the intent behind what the person is saying will help you get through it a lot quicker, because when you can see and recognize that person ain't really for the right things anyway, this person ain't never been for me anyway, you're able to kind of get through the little hurtful comment or the little, snarky remark that they made to you. So again, begin with empathy. And then you want to express your feelings, because your feelings are valid. So even if a person offended you or hurt you unintentionally, your feelings are still very much valid. So you want to communicate your hurt in a constructive way, if possible. All right? Just say, you know what? When you said what you said or when you did what you did, I was offended. It hurt my feelings. And, it's okay to acknowledge that, hey, maybe you didn't do it on purpose. Because a lot of times when our family and our friends hurt us, we know that they're not doing it on purpose, right? We know that they're not intentionally out to wrong us, but it doesn't stop the sting. It doesn't stop that pain. So we've got to begin to express our feelings. In order to hold someone accountable, they need to know what it was that they've done, right? So, I grew up with my father teaching me that people can only be held accountable for what they know, not what you assume that they know, right? So if a person hurts me, if a person wrongs me, or if I'm the one hurting or wronging someone, in order for either of us to be accountable in this situation, I've got to let you know. Exactly. So Kale says communicate your hurt in a constructive way. Right? And so, and you know what? Because we're human, we're all not going to get it right sometimes. So even though we may have constructed this conversation in what we thought was a helpful way, welcome in Shan, Miss Parker, Chucky, Jason, I see you. You know, even though we might spend so much time writing a letter or getting this just right when we present this to someone, we've got to understand that just because I deliver it in a proper way doesn't mean it's going to be received in that way too. And so a lot of times when we're trying to address our hurt, our frustration, our pain to someone, we cause even more, because now I'm trying to bring to you, hey, you know what? Yesterday when you said this is how I felt. Well, if I didn't take the time to figure out where you were in your space today as I'm bringing you yesterday, you know what I mean? You might receive that as, okay, wait, oh, so now you want to pop off? Now we got a problem? You know what I mean? So just because I deliver it in a manner that is clear and concise that I think is nice, right? You might not receive it that way. And so now we're stacking problems. We're stacking burdens. So I always tell people, when you're in the process of expressing your feelings, when you want someone to be open to a conversation that you need to have, you need to ask them, you know, questions such as, do you have the capacity to talk to me about yesterday? Bars. I know, right? So, you know, I am a big person in asking people, you know, hey, do you have a moment? And I'm very clear with what I want, right? I'm not going to hide behind it. So I'm not going to say, hey, you got some time to talk? And then not tell you why. I'm going to just say, hey, there were some things that happened between you and I yesterday, and I was just wondering if you had a few moments to talk about it. And if the person says yes, then good, we can go ahead and engage in that conversation. But at that point, then that person has the opportunity to say, no, yesterday was a rough day for me, and yesterday just really stressed me out, so right now I don't want to talk about it. Right? Because I think a lot of times when people hurt us or offend us and we're trying to address that issue with them, we're not being to the point. We're not being direct and saying, hey, there was something between me and you that took place that I want to talk about. We say, oh, I want to talk. About what? So, you know, all of a sudden now you've blindsided the person or you've ambushed them. You know, you start a conversation making them think that everything is all good. And then all of a sudden you like, first of all, you did this. Second, you did this. Third, you did this. And you're like, they're like, I don't even recall. Like, I'm already stressed out. You know what I mean? So it's like now you've dumped on them, and all of a sudden now they're being defensive. Their guard is up. So again, when it gets to the point where you are trying to express your feelings, just because you're ready to express doesn't mean that they're ready to receive. So you want to start asking people permission. That is part of setting a healthy boundary, which is actually the next tip that I have for you. Because we've got to start communicating with each other in a more effective way. We've got to start being able to say, hey, do you have the capacity? Many of my friends will call me. They know I'm a life coach, so they know I deal with everybody else's problems all day long, right? So when my friends call me and they need my friend version of a life coach, they're like, sis, do you have the capacity for my bullshit today, right? They ask that. Or even in marriage, right, with me and my husband, when he has done something to offend me, or if I've done something to offend him, even after 7 years of marriage, we're like, we still offend each other sometimes unintentionally, you know. And so we've gotten to the point where, like, my husband, I'll use him as an example. He was very immediate, you know, so he would feel what he needed to feel, and then he would come to me like, yeah, so I needed to talk. Do you got a sec? And so, like, I could be in the middle of anything. It doesn't matter. He's ready to talk. And for me, I wasn't ready to receive whatever it was because I might be busy. I might be stressed, whatever. So, you know, in us growing our form of communication with each other effectively, thank you, Shan, with us effectively, you know, learning to communicate, we have started asking each other permission or scheduling the time to have the conversation as to not be an inconvenience to either one of us. And so, that's a healthy boundary for our marriage. And those are things that you can do even in your friendship, even in your relationships with coworkers, your family, things like that. You need to really ask a person their capacity for the conversation that you're ready to deliver. Don't hide behind it. Don't mask it. Thank you, Shan. Don't mask it like this is going to be a real cool conversation and then you about to dump on them, like you're ambushing them, because you're never going to get the desired outcome that you want from them. So make sure that, in addition to setting your feelings, that you are expressing your feelings, that you are setting healthy boundaries. Forgiveness doesn't mean that you're condoning their bad behavior. Okay? So you want to make sure that you're setting boundaries to protect yourself, but you also want to be mindful, because ultimately if this person, if you're having a conversation with this person, then that means that this person has some value in your life. All right? And so you also want to make sure that you're being mindful and protective of them as well. Even if your plan is to burn the bridge, right? It doesn't mean that you still can't be respectful to another human being to see where they're at in their day before you let them know this is the end. End of the road. This is your stop. Out the car, right? And then, of course, the last part is to move on. Just like with ourselves, our last step was to let it go. Well, now that we've empathized, we try to see things from their perspective. We've expressed our feelings in a healthy way. That was on a mutual time, for all parties. And we've got our boundaries in place, and we're saying this is the last stop. You got to get out the car. It's been real. Now it's our point to move on. You got to let go of the resentment and focus on your own healing and own happiness. And in order to do that, again, you've got to let it go. So once you address whatever's happened with that party, it should be done. Okay? We should not constantly be bringing it up, harping on it again and again and again, right? Let it go. Move on. Move forward. And so once you've addressed it with a person, once you've said, hey, you hurt my feelings. And then the person says, well, I didn't mean to. I apologize. That's it. We don't want to get into what I call beating a dead horse. So once a person apologizes, once I get the I apologize, the apology or whatever, then I don't really have anything more to add to it. Because what happens a lot of times is you'll bring something to someone's attention, they'll apologize, right? And then you keep saying, because I just didn't understand why you did that, and da-da-da-da-da. And they'll be like, well, yeah, I didn't mean to. But okay. And so you're like, yeah, because, da-da-da-da-da. And, 6 years ago, you did da-da-da-da-da. Okay, so now their guard is building. Now they're starting to build a wall because they're like, well, I apologize. So, of course, everybody says, well, I said sorry. What else do you want me to do? Right? You're like, I said sorry. What more is it? What do we need to talk about? So now all of a sudden we started stacking that problem again. So if the whole point of the conversation was to get the apology, if you get the apology within the first minute or two, y'all, count your losses and keep it pushing. Right? Don't beat them up. So again, forgiveness is a fundamental aspect of self-care, and it promotes our emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual well-being. Rich Rising Semester, welcome in, bro. Hey, Andrew. So we've got to understand that, forgiveness allows us to break free from the chains of past hurts. And it allows us the opportunity to move forward with a lighter heart and a healthier mind. Embracing forgiveness for both ourselves and for others is a step towards a more fulfilling and balanced life. So again, we've got to be mindful of our feelings, but we cannot ignore other people's feelings. Just like we have the right to express ourselves, so do they. All right? So show yourself some love, get the courage, say what you need to say, and be done with it. Be done with it. So that's what I got for you guys today. That is our healing from within. And that's the role of forgiveness as it pertains to our self-care. Does anyone have any questions about what we've gone over today, or any general questions about the Self-Care Club that I can answer for you while we're here? Thank you, KL. Welcome in, Eric. And while I'm checking for questions, I will go ahead and just say that I do wish to thank each and every one of you for being here today. Your presence, as well as your gifts, really do mean a lot to me. Your support during the live stream directly benefits the Self-Care Club LLC, enabling us to keep showing up, making a positive impact in the community each day. Your generosity fuels our mission, and it's why we're able to keep coming back daily to do what we do. If anyone ever has any questions or stories that you wish to share, please feel free to reach out to us. Shan says, no questions, just something I needed to hear today. Yes, beautiful. Look, you know what? God has a way of doing that for us, right? God has a way of making us show up at just the right time, whether it's to deliver or to receive, right? So I'm glad that I could be the vessel to deliver that for you today. And the funny thing about it is, it's always what I need to hear too. So when I think about the blog and the YouTube stream and the podcast, it's called Room to Breathe. And it's a number 2. Because when I'm sitting here doing these live streams with you guys, it's just me. I'm sitting in the room and I'm talking to myself. And I'm looking at myself. Even though I'm talking to you, I'm physically talking to me. And so when I take the time, first and foremost, to write the content, and then I've got to deliver the content. So I do it 2 times. And you know how they say, when you want to commit something to memory, you got to say it out loud? So remember in school, they used to have you read things, but they tell you to read it out loud because then you also hear it. And so when I think of room and the number 2, breathe, that's kind of where I came up with the concept of the podcast and the blog, because it was my space. And so when I would come in here and I would record these live streams, or when I come in here and I record the content, this is just my little room to breathe, my space to breathe. And sometimes my content can stem from things that I'm experiencing. Sometimes my content can extend or come from things that my clients might be experiencing. But at the end of the day, it all resonates with each and every one of us at some point in our life. So even though you might not be struggling with forgiveness or letting things go today, one day you will. Or someone else may cross your path. You might get to work and your 2 coworkers got beef. Hey, this conversation might help you help them mediate things. So I mean, again, when I say that what we do here is meant to create a ripple effect of positivity, if it doesn't bless you today, just know and commit it to memory, because it could bless you tomorrow, a week from now, 6 months from now. You might need to be like, hold up, let me go back to Coach's YouTube real quick, because she talked about this last month, right? So I definitely encourage you guys, if you're not already following me on YouTube, head over to YouTube, type in @LifeCoach614, subscribe, hit the bell so you get your reminders. So that way you have access to these resources to refer back to. And then if anyone is seeking any additional information about the Self-Care Club, or if you're ready to book a one-on-one personalized life coaching session with me, I encourage you to visit selfcareclub.org for more details. And you will also be able to tap into a lot of free resources there as well. So I do look forward to connecting with each and every one of you again during our next live coaching session. We will meet again tomorrow at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, as we do have these sessions every weekday. So again, I do hope to connect with each and every one of you again tomorrow. I hope that you guys have an amazing day on purpose, filled with purpose. And if you have the capacity today, I really do encourage you to work on your forgiveness, figure out something that you can let go of. And if you need to have a conversation with someone, ask them if they have the capacity to do so today. There's no time like the present, and we know that tomorrow is not promised. All right? So let it go. So that way you can move on and really truly live the life that you deserve. So have an amazing day, you guys. I will see you tomorrow, 9 a.m. And yeah, that's that. So see you later, Northside.